Settle down. My name is Earl, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, everybody. I want to thank you very much for asking me to come share here. I consider this to be a great honor and a privilege. I want to thank Darren and Dylan for coming to get me at the airport. I appreciate that very much. I don't know where those guys are, but thank you. And it was, Steve said, you know, you're going to get off the plane, and there's going to be a guy at baggage claim with a sign that says Earl. And I said, okay, and I hung up, and I thought, oh, there won't be. There's never a guy with a sign that says Earl. And I get off the plane, sure enough, there's no guy with a sign named Earl. But I'm coming down the escalator, I'm looking around. It's just how it is for us. You know, I'm looking around in the airport, going down the escalator, and I look around and I go, well, that's the guy right there. Now you can just spot him. You're just a guy standing there in a coat. That's the guy looking for me right there. That guy is kind of like, is it you? And he goes, Earl. Yeah. We saw each other straight away. A lot of people behind me here. Jeremy, any fast moves, you let me know, all right? So, God, emotional. I'm emotional after all that. I mean, I've been walking around listening to just, you know, one remarkable story after another, you know, meeting amazing people, and you can feel it here. You know, this is one of those places. This is one of those places, one of those rare places that you can't decide to create this. You have to just let this happen. This is the only way this can happen, is to get the vibe that's in this place. This is where the magic happens. This is where the consciousness pops. You know what I mean? Just doing the full work. Just doing the full work. So I'm emotional. I got Kleenex. So anyway, I didn't start drinking until I was 12. I held off as long as I possibly could, man. I had been restless, irritable, and discontented for quite some time prior to that. But my father had shipped me off to boarding school, you know, and I mean, how I found that I was going to boarding school was I was in my room minding my own business, and my father walked in and said, get in the car. I said, well, all right. And we went and got in the car, and we drove, a caravan of relatives. I don't know what's going on. We pull up to this place, and I get out of the car, my father gets out of the car, and nobody else gets out of the car. Puts a suitcase down next to me, shakes my hand, says, this will make a man out of you. Got in the car and drove off, right? Turns out I was the youngest and the smallest kid of 250 boys in an all boys boarding school, 5 feet tall, 103 pounds. You know, manhood was right around the corner. Make a man out of me, man. I was scared of my own shadow. And, you know, the feeling was that I'd just been thrown away by the people who knew me best. The fact was that I was being given an opportunity for a wonderful education that's held me in good stead to this very day. But I was devastated by that experience, man. I called my mother for 3 days after that, crying, saying, you know, you got to come get me out of here. And I could hear my father in the background, hang up. You know, and she just said, well, got to go, hang up. And after 3 days, it was like something broke inside me. And I said, you know what, you don't want me, I don't want you. And I turned my back on my family, and I pretty much never went back. And here I was, this kid in this school. I mean, they'd scoured the earth to find 250 of the brightest, most disturbed young men they could find. You know, it was like Lord of the Flies in this joint. You know what I mean? It was a lot going on. And I was the youngest and smallest kid in there, and I met Tiny. 3 days in, I met Tiny. Every high school's got a guy named Tiny. You know, 6'4", 240, plays guard on the football team. Actually, Tiny found me. I didn't find Tiny. I was walking around trying not to make eye contact with anybody, and he came up and said, how you doing, punk? And he slapped me in the back of the head and sent me and my books flying. And I had this, like, out-of-body experience, you know, like when you're watching yourself do something, but your head is saying, no, this is a very bad idea. And I walked up and I hit Tiny as hard as I possibly could, which had no effect on Tiny whatsoever. And Tiny looked down at me and he said, you got a lot of guts, kid. And then he beat the crap out of me, right? And as I'm taking the beating, I'm thinking this is going pretty good. Because the fact was I was terrified of Tiny, but he had said you got a lot of guts. So my violence, my feeble attempt at violence had masked my fear. So my first tool for living was, when frightened, attack. They don't know you're afraid if you're assaulting them, right? So, you know, I went back to my room waiting for the bleeding to stop. You know, I'm sitting in my room just thinking, you know, my life sucks. You know, I mean, 2 weeks ago I was fine. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, my family's throwing me away. I got giant people attacking me. But word spread across this campus in like 30 minutes. Watch out for this Hightower kid. He attacked Tiny. He's a maniac. You know, what I am is just a frightened kid. That's all I am. But, you know, I got this rep now. So the cool guys came around. This guy named Matt came around. He said, hey, you want to smoke a joint? And I said, yes, I do. You know, and I didn't even know what he was talking about. All I heard was, do you want to hook up? And the answer was, yeah, I feel like I'm alone in the universe. You want to go smoke a joint? I'll go smoke a joint with you, whatever the hell that is. You want to go kill the Spanish teacher? Fine, I'm in. You know, let's just hook it up. And we went and got Steve, and Steve had a Tupperware container full of cheap red wine. And we went behind the dorm, and it was two 13-year-olds and a 12-year-old standing there, children. And Matt lit the joint, took a hit, and handed it to me, and I took a hit on that joint, and it burned my lungs, and I handed that over, right? And then the wine came around, I took a pull on that wine, and that burned my stomach. I mean, that was cheap red wine. I mean, no grapes involved red wine. That was fortified stuff, right? That burns, right? I passed that along, and I thought, you know, this is awful. It's awful. I don't even know what we're doing here. I mean, the rate I'm going, I'm going to be dead in a week. The way this is just spiraling downward. And I mean, it happened. That thing that makes me bodily and mentally different from my fellows occurred. Suddenly I was comfortable standing where I was standing, doing what I was doing with the people I was doing it with, and I never felt like that before in my life. I'd been set free, and I don't know, is it the pot, is it the wine, is it the fact that I'm standing here with my two very close personal friends, Matt and Steve, because I'm feeling that connection. I don't know, and you know what, I don't care. Because my experience in that moment, and I got to remember this, my experience in that moment was I felt better than I'd ever felt in my life. And nothing bad happened. Nobody died that night. Nobody went to prison. No blood was drawn. Nobody went to the nut house. All those things were going to happen, but it wasn't happening right there. Right there, it was feel better than you've ever felt before, and nothing bad happens. I'm in. I am in. There was nothing inside me that was resistant or hesitating about this at all. It was just, this is great. I need to do this as often as I possibly can. And I did for the next 16 years, no matter what. I mean, and I think that's the difference between me and the problem drinker. The problem drinker, you give them a reason to stop. They do. I mean, the problem drinker gets another 502, a drunk driving charge. It's 502 in California. Get a drunk driving charge, goes before the judge. The judge says, you know what, I'm sick of you. I see you again. You're going to do a year in counting. We'll talk at the end of the year. Problem drinker hears that and he goes, well, I don't want to go to jail. Actually makes the decision to stop drinking and driving and can follow through on that decision. Me, I started wondering what it's going to be like in jail, because I'm going. I know I'm going. It's just, thank you, Your Honor, for that information. Given a good reason, I don't stop, but I can look like a problem drinker right up to that point of being able to follow through. I'll get the 502 for exactly the same reasons, drunk driving just the same as the problem drinker. I will make a decision and mean it just in precisely the same way as the problem drinker. The problem drinker will stop drinking. I will go home, right, have a couple of belts, and I just need to go somewhere. I somehow forget about that pledge, that solemn oath, that I'm not going to do this anymore. So it's humble beginnings for me, is a little pot and a little wine. You know, 13 was pills, and any kind of pills. I mean, the only reason I took a pill was a guy said to me, would you like a couple of pills? And I said, well, yes, I would. You know, 20 minutes later, I'm laying on the floor, and I'm very happy down there. Yeah. Getting some severe identification right back through this area right here. Yeah, right. You know, so I got started out on Tuinol, Seconal, Placidil, all that stuff. I don't even know if they make that stuff anymore. I mean, the only reason to take a Tuinol is if you feel like you need to melt today, you know. That's the only reason to take those. One of my favorites, by the way. 14 was psychedelics. The only reason I took a psychedelic was because I'm a child of the 60s, you know what I mean? And I identify as an alcoholic. Alcohol is what led me to Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'm a child of the 60s, and we were very, very focused on the drugs, you know what I mean? Our parents were alcoholics, and we were trying to carve out our own identity. We were going to, you know, kill ourselves in an entirely new way. So we weren't focusing on the alcohol, we were focusing on the drugs. That was what we talked about, that's what our focus was. But I'll tell you what, the truth about that is this. The drugs would come and go. The only thing that was on the table every single day for me was alcohol. And the reason for that is, drugs, in my experience, drugs are completely unreliable. Completely. There's no quality control going on out there. You don't know what you got till you get it in you. You go get a fifth of Jack Daniels, you go get a quart of good gin, you know what you got here. This is reliable stuff. So you do so much cocaine, you can't get your mouth open anymore. You know? And it's like 7 p.m. and the party just started, and you've completely overshot the mark one more time. It doesn't matter. You suck a little gin through your teeth, it'll smooth you right out. You go on with the party. You're all right. Acid a little too spooky this evening? Just get that Jack Daniels working. He'll get you back in the comfort zone. Don't worry. Booze is reliable. That's why it was always the other stuff that comes going. I'm not a specialist. My drug of choice is what do you got? You know, it's all anti-Earl medication. But, I prefer alcohol, heroin, barbiturates. These are a few of my favorite things. Right? But you don't have any of that. Can't go down? Let's go up. Right? Right? What? You don't have any heroin? Oh, I'll take a big bag of the cocaine then, please. So it's pretty clear that we're not really committed to any one thing here. If I can't get down, let's go up. I'm perfectly happy driving the freeways, decoding license plates. That's fine with me. I love how self-respecting heroin addict doesn't think he's getting anything done, so you throw a little methamphetamine in there, and because you can't get up off the couch. Next, you blink, man, you can't get out of the bathroom. You just doesn't seem to work the way you think it would. And you got 4 television sets in there, and they're all taken apart. Yeah. I was at home the other day with my wife. It was like, football weekend last week, and I'm all fired up, got the big 62-inch fired up with the surround sound. I'm right in the middle of this, got the popcorn, I'm ready, it's good, right? The door's locked, all of a sudden the TV just goes black. And I just went, well, that's unacceptable. She gets online, she figures out, she goes, the replacement bulb for that, we got a TV in my office, the bulb in that fits this one. I went, no problem. Went back out there, took the back off that set, pulled that carriage thing out, got over here, did that, slapped that one in, turned. My wife's looking at me like, all right, well, now we have 2 broken televisions. Slapped it in, fired it up, boom, lit up, everything was great. We looked at each other and she looked at me and said, all of your methamphetamine people would be very proud. Yes, they would. Yes, they would. Anyway, humble beginnings. So 14 with psychedelics. The only reason I took a psychedelic is I was on a pass from this high school, and this girl named Debbie. Debbie was a bad girl. I had a lot of respect for Debbie, man. And Debbie said, would you like to drop some acid? And I said, well, yes, I would, Debbie. So she gave this little thing, pulled this little thing out, and I just took it and threw it in my mouth, and she said, did you take that whole thing? And I said, yeah, I did. It was very tiny. She said, that's 3 hits of white lightning. So, yeah. Next 2 days were very interesting. So then 650 trips later, I got classified legally insane by the military, but that's a whole other story. We don't have time for that one. 15, I started shooting dope. The only reason I shot dope is, again, I'm on a boat in Marina Del Rey. Lovely girl, Cammie. Cammie walked up and said, would you like me to stick this in your body? And I said, well, yes, I would, Cammie. So she did it. It was one of those shots where you just kind of go, oh. Right? And on the way down, all I'm thinking is that if I'm not dead, I'm doing that again, because that was great. You know what? And I mean on and on and on. And all our stories are the same, basically. You know what I mean? It's just getting worse. It's taking more and more of a hold on me. I'm needing more and more alcohol to counteract the effects the drugs are having. I'm needing, so the drugs are slowly starting to slip away, and the alcohol is starting to assert itself. And I've kicked everything. You can get a $300-400 a day heroin habit going, and you want to kick that, you just go get yourself a gallon of orange juice, some candy bars, a carton of cigarettes, some water, a bucket, a blanket, and a remote. You can ride that bad boy out on the couch. You go get a couple of quarts of Jack Daniels going a day for a while, try that. You'll convulse to death on the couch. Alcohol's the big dog, man. That is the big dog. And it was slowly starting to take over. I got thrown in my first nut house when I was 16 for 3 months of observation, a year of rehabilitation. That's what they had me in for, which I thought was a little excessive. But, after, a few what I thought were very skillful negotiations, I did get out of that joint. Only to go haywire, right out of the gate, and then they threw the net over me, got me back in again. And I escaped the first day from that joint. You got to get out before they get the Thorazine in you, or you're leaving when they say. It's just that simple. Those 3 cups of pills a day will slow you up. So I hit that, out on the streets, doing my thing. 21, my mother calls me, says, we haven't been anywhere as a family in 10 years. We'll go anywhere you want to go. Let's just go as a family. And on my 22nd birthday, we took off to Flat of Guadalajara, and on the way there, the plane crashed. And my mother, my father, my little sister all died in the crash, and I did not. And I woke up on a mountain in Mexico, and my back was broken in 3 places. My leg was crushed, arm crushed, skull fractured, paralyzed from the waist down, and awake. And all I could move was my right arm, and my mother was laying right over there, and my little sister Kimberly was over there, my father was there. And I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything to help them, and I just laid there and watched them all bleed to death. And I renounced God at the time. I just said, any God that would take Kimberly and leave me, I have no use for a God of this type. Renounce God. Then some guys came up and they scavenged the plane wreck, and they left me there to die. And I had no more love for you either. I was out of the game. Had no love of man, had no love of God. I was out. But I was an incredibly angry, frightened, crazy, alcoholic, drug addict lying on a line in the mud in Mexico. And they eventually, some guys came and they got me down to the hospital. It was down there, and as soon as they found out who I was, the federales showed up and they interrogated me through an interpreter for 3 days. They wouldn't give me anything for pain. They wanted to know what I was doing back in Mexico, which is a whole other story we don't need to get into. But let's just say Mexico was not thrilled to see me under any circumstances. So I called some guys I knew of Northern California who flew in a plane, and paid some guys off, and they plastered me from the neck down and smuggled me out of Mexico, and I ended up back in California in a hospital. I was in there for a long time, doing maximum doses of Demerol every 3 hours around the clock. I left there strung out and out of my mind. I was completely and utterly crazy. I mean, I hadn't had much life experience beyond being a boy and then being a drug addict and an alcoholic. There was really I didn't really have any time in my life to really develop anything. I started using so young, but I did know that I had pictures in my head I couldn't live with. I knew that the madness was going to get me, and I was just going to drink and use, and I didn't have any anchors. I mean, that's the point I really got to make, is that I didn't have a family to keep it together for. I didn't have a career. I didn't have a wife or kids. I didn't have any of the anchors that normal people have. Somehow I had missed all of those. I didn't have any. I was just crazy, strung out, and on the loose. And I went on my last run, and it lasted for 6 years. And in those 6 years, I cleaned up 3 times a detox. I would go to this bootleg sanitarium in Hollywood, California, where you go in and give them 150 cash and give them your stuff, and they strap you to a gurney and shoot you full of anticonvulsants and let you rock. And 72 hours later, they'd either send you home or to the morgue, and they didn't really care which way you went. And I remember the last time I did that was in 1978, and I said, I reintroduced myself to the God I had forsaken, and I said, you know what? You get me out of this sane and alive, and I will never, ever, ever drink or use again as long as I live. And I meant it with every fiber of my being. I meant that with every part of me. And I got up off that gurney, and that nurse said, Earl, you know you're an alcoholic, don't you? And I said, yes, ma'am, I do. And she said, you know you're a drug addict, don't you? I said, of course I do. She said, you know, for you to drink or use is madness, don't you? You're not getting high. You're not partying. Look at your words, man. You're just feeding the beast. That's all you do, man, is feed the beast. The best you can do, man, is get to 0. You ain't been above the line in years. So you know this, don't you? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, all right, so armed with this self-knowledge, you're not going to drink or use again no matter what, are you? And I said, hell no, I'm not a stupid individual. I walked right out of there, committed to my sobriety, until, of course, I saw that my hands were shaking still, because I was right smack in the middle of a full-blown kick. It'd only been 3 days. And if I'm not mistaken, Valium is medically indicated in such a situation. So, and I believe a normal dose of Valium is about 50 milligrams. So I took that to get rid of the shake in my hands, and 3 days later I came to in a different city, having no idea how I got there, because that's what I do. And I drank and used for another 2 years because I could not stop. Couldn't stop drinking. I knew I was an alcoholic 16 years, 12 years. I knew I was 16 years. I knew I was an alcoholic 16 years before I was able to do anything about it. And by able, I mean being beaten into a state of reasonableness by my alcoholism. Right? I had came out of my last blackout November 6, 1980. Both my hands were broken. I'd broken 74 bones. I had over 650 stitches in me. I'd been diagnosed and had surgery for malignant cancer. I'd been in a plane crash. Family's dead. Got no friends. I got no place to live. I'm psychotic, and I do not use that term loosely. I could not distinguish between the true and the false, like the book talks about. I was completely out of my mind. And I was so detached from self, it was like I was observing myself, and I was really amazed that the human mind and the human body could on some level remain intact in the condition I had taken them to. And I had the moment of clarity that they talk about. My moment of clarity was I wasn't connected to another human being on the face of the earth. And that was the direct result of my actions. This was on me. God didn't do this to me. The FBI didn't do this to me. My father didn't do this to me. This was me and my alcoholism. And if I didn't want to die, I was going to have to find another way to live. And what I understand now is I was going to have to find consciousness beyond my own. If I was going to keep trying to figure out what to do with this in the midst of it, I was going to die. Because I had tried everything and failed every single time. So I threw up 2 busted hands. They were deciding whether or not to charge me with attempted murder, and I just said, help. And they took me in an ambulance, took me to a place, and 47 days later, after riding a cot, that's what they called the place I went to. Where I went to, it was 42 cots in one room. 21 cots on each side of the room with sheets drawn between them. And how you got your cot was you got in it and you stayed in it. You rode your cot. You didn't want to do it, and you kicked like a dog. And if you bucked up out of there and had a seizure, they'd rush up on you, hit you with anticonvulsants, get your vitals stable, and just put you back in the cot. And if you really were sick, they'd take you off somewhere. We never knew where that was. Some of those guys came back, and some didn't, right? And I stayed there for 47 days, and I was still sick when I left, but I knew one thing. The guy said to me, Earl, I'm going to keep this simple for you. If you don't go to AA, you're going to die. It's the only chance for a guy like you. And I am so grateful to that man that he didn't say to me, Earl, we got a couple options for you. My head would have just exploded right there. I mean, it's like, we're going to have me make a decision right now? That's not a good plan. And he said, go to AA or die. And I said, okay. I had been beaten into a state of reasonableness. And so Friday night, 8:30 p.m., basement of a church, I walked, thinking that nobody'd notice. You know what I mean? But I was one of those guys that walked in. I mean, I was completely crazy, hair out like this, beard like this, eyes just banging around in my head, mad dogging everybody. And I came strolling in, and a couple of old-timers just went, woo! Stay right there. There's a seat for you. Get yourself a cup of coffee. Good luck with all that over there. I'm just like, yeah, right. Yeah, and but every meeting's got a guy with about 9 months who's just caught the buzz, man. Who's just caught the buzz, just caught fire with Alcoholics Anonymous, and he will be giving it away tonight. His name was Vegas N, and Vegas saw me and he just went, new guy, and he was coming. And I was mad dogging that man. I was just trying to just get him to just steer off of me, just veer off. I don't need that. Whatever that is, I'm not having it. Get it over there. He couldn't see any of that, just new guy. And he walked up and he said, hi, I'm Vegas, I'm an alcoholic. And I said, me too, man. I don't know what you're so happy about. Get away from me. And he looked at me and he said, keep coming back. And I went, oh, great. Great, keep coming back. Apparently there's some deep spiritual significance to keep coming back. I don't know what the hell it is, but apparently your little buddies over there who are sitting over there going, ooh, look, Vegas told them to keep coming back. They're very impressed with the little ditty that you just threw at me right there. So here's what you need to do with that, right? And walked away. thinking, okay, I'm the loser and the only guy in the room who doesn't know what keep coming back means with the deep spiritual significance. And they would do that to me all the time. Keep coming back, one day at a time. Hey, just turn it over, all right? What the hell are these people talking about? That all you got? And of course, I looked up on the wall and said, 12 steps. Read it? Great, good, got it. What else you got? Terrific. Right? If you're new, have more guts than I did. I mean, if we do that to you, if we come up and we start throwing the AA rap at you, and by the way, if you're new, please don't get your AA rap down. You'll die getting your AA rap down, man. Don't get your AA rap down. Yeah, sober all day. Don't do that, right? And if they do the keep coming back thing at you. Step up and just say, excuse me, I don't understand the deep spiritual significance of, just turn it over. You mind expanding on that for me a little bit? Where I got sober, if they were honest, about 75% of them would say, well, I don't know what it means either. I mean, they said it to me, I'm just saying it to you. I don't know what the hell's going on here. There's a guy over there who reads the big book. Let's ask him, maybe he knows. And if he does read the big book, he will. He will know. He will be able to tell you what the deep spiritual significance of those things might happen to be. Anyway, so the beginning for me was just lunacy, sitting in the back row, and they kept saying, and this guy got up and he shared his experience, strength, and hope. I didn't know that's what he was sharing at the time, but he affected me. He got through where nobody else could. One alcoholic talking to another. And the fact that I happened to be an insane alcoholic that was testing the limits of the human skull. I mean, the pressure in my head was just so severe that nothing could get in. I mean, you would say, rarely, what? What did he say? I mean, sitting next to me in the beginning was fun. People were just like, take it easy, will you? Just breathe, man, breathe. But this guy got up, and what I got the sense of him. I felt him. He talked openly and honestly about his feelings as a man, and he did it with a grace and a dignity that I was unfamiliar with. I didn't know anything about. And I'd never seen those things go together. You didn't talk that way about those things. You just didn't, and this guy was. And the whole room was responding to him, and so was I. I was responding to him, and when he left, I thought he sat down, and I thought, this is cool, and I'm coming back. He got it to me when nobody else could, one alcoholic talking to another. And I thought, I got to come back here, because I have no place else left to go, which is a great way to get here. Destroyed. Nothing behind you. What's back there? Don't even turn around, man. There's nothing. Smoke and ashes. That's all that's back there. Smoke and ashes. It's got to be this way, right? And so there was just the humble beginnings of a guy coming in and sitting down and trying to listen and not being able to, and coming back again and trying to listen and being able to just a tiny bit more. And then I heard they said, you did get a sponsor. And I said, well, what's that? You know what you mean, like Pepsi? I didn't see anybody walking around with decals on, you know what I mean? They said, no, sponsor somebody who's got what you want. And I said, I would like to drink. Since we're being honest, there you go, all right? Maybe it's a little early to be throwing a ball back in my court. And I have since come to believe I don't want a sponsor who's got what I want. I want a sponsor who's got what he wants. That's what I want. I want a guy that's a great definition of being happy, wanting what you have. So I looked for that guy, and I was looking around, and there was this lunatic. This guy came to a meeting, and he spoke, and he was nuts. But he was so happy being him. And so unabashedly in love with Alcoholics Anonymous. He was so... Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's all right, man. It's all right. And mine went off earlier. What the hell was I talking about, Jeremy? Pop quiz. What was I talking about? Crazy. So, the what? Yeah. So the late, great Donald Madden. And I thought, I want what he has. I want to feel strongly about something. Because I'm dead inside. I don't feel anything for anybody. I'm living up to my promise that I made on that mountain in Mexico. I swore I'd never love another human being again as long as I lived. There's no way I'm going to tell you who I am, so there's no way you're going to love me. I'm out of that. And I was holding true to that. So I thought, but this guy's, I want this. I got to feel more connected to this A&A thing. So I asked him to sponsor me, and he said, I said, will you sponsor me? He said, what? take it easy, man. Will you sponsor me? And he said, yeah, I'll sponsor you, and you don't have to like what I tell you, and you don't have to think it's a good idea. You just have to do it. And in my mind, quietly, I thought to myself, I can work around that. Little did I know, man, I was so outgunned, it was unbelievable. And I did everything that man told me to do for the next almost 14 years, up until the day he died. He's the one that carried the message of Alcoholics Anonymous to me. He's the reason that I have a God in my life today. Because I was going around explaining to him in very angry terms why there's no such thing as God, until one day he just couldn't take it anymore. And he just smiled. I mean, it was this smile I had learned to fear. You know, he would look at me and smile, and I would just think, oh, great, my whole head's about to blow up again. And he looked at me and said, Earl, you can't be mad at a God you don't believe in. And I just went, oh. I gotta go home now. And what I realized was I had a relationship with a power greater than myself. It was just a bad one as a result of my attitude. And that began to change. I mean, and he's the guy that said, this is what we do here. This is how we do this program of action. And he showed me how to be an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I mean, if you're anything like me, you know the magnitude of that gift. So I started doing that and moving along. And I started getting a little squirrely. And by squirrely, I mean stark raving nuts. Sober. And I finally walked up to this old timer and I said, listen, getting a little sketchy. A little sketchy over here. Going to 7 to 9 meetings a week, talking to my sponsor every day. I got commitments. I'm taking out 2 panels a month. I never turned down an AA request. I am in this thing, my friend. I am in it. And for some reason, things are getting a little screwy. And the guy looked at me and he said, kid, you don't get a program, you're going to die. Get away from me. What the hell are you talking about? And I went down my little list of stuff. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And he goes, it's lovely, Earl. Great fellowship, vital to your recovery. But if you don't get a program, which you will find in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, you're going to die. Get away from me. I thought, fine, you old bastard. I'll get a program. I'll be back next week with a program. You'll see. So this buddy of mine and I get together and we said, okay, we're going to stop avoiding the big book thumpers, you know what I mean? And, we've been avoiding them like the plague, right? We're going to stop avoiding them. We got this Joe and Charlie, the big book comes alive, the original stuff, you know what I mean? And we're sitting and we're going to say, okay, open it up, read that. And we're in the book and we're just read the black part. All right. Ha, 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 I get it. And we start reading along. And I wish I had taped this, because this was just like the Three Stooges go to AA. But they've lost one of the Stooges, and it's only these 2 idiots, right? And we're sitting there, and we'll be reading along, and every 5 minutes I'm going, hey, you know that thing they say in the meetings there? Here it is, right here. They actually kind of explain it, too, if you read this little part right here. Like every 5 minutes this is going on. My friend chiming in. He's just going, hey, look, they got, you know that thing? There it is, right there. We should probably be underlining some of this. We're going through, and at one point, my friend looks at me and goes, listen, before we go any further, I got to let you know, you're kind of freaking me out. And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, you're like changing right in front of me. And I said, I've been thinking the same thing about you. And of course, we sat there looking at each other like, should we just knock this off? No, we're already in. Let's keep rolling. We kept rolling. And what happened was, it changed our lives completely and totally. Look, this thing for me, this isn't about stopping drinking. That's not what this is about for me. This is about how do I stay stopped. I got to stay stopped. And the only way I'm going to stay stopped is if I can get comfortable sober. And the only way I've ever known that a guy like me can be comfortable sober is if I can be relieved of the greater aspect of my illness, the obsession of my mind. I have to be relieved of that. If I do not get relieved of the obsession of the mind, the persistence of this illusion, this belief in a lie that I can drink like a normal man, is astonishing. Many of us pursue it to the gates of insanity and death. And I'm a gate guy, man. I got to get relieved of the obsession of the mind. I can't live life with one hand trying to fight that beast off. The other thing with the other hand. I can't live like that. Because at some point, I don't care what else I do, what kind of fellowship I engage in, the day's going to come when the planets are going to line up just right, and the option of using is going to present itself. And it's going to present itself as somehow, possibly, a reasonable choice. And I will find myself back in the pit dancing with that beast one more time. And I don't have another role. I don't have another role. I have to be here. I have to be here. So I have to be relieved of the obsession of the mind. Luckily for me, there's this triangle with a circle around it. It's an ancient spiritual symbol. It stands for mind, body, and spirit, brought together as a whole human being. And therein lies the balance that I've sought my whole life, and I've never had drunk or sober. Alcoholics Anonymous adopted that symbol. Unity, service, and recovery. It's the same thing. Unity's the body, I bring it here. I couldn't get sober, but we seem to be able to. First word in the steps is we. I have to be with my people, so I must engage in the fellowship. So I go to regular meetings regularly. That's what I need to do to get what it is I'm here to get, to be successful at this thing, to find the consciousness beyond my own that can carry me. That's what I need. So I go to regular meetings regularly. Unity is the body, I bring it here. It's governed by the 12 traditions. My body, this. Recoveries of the mind, the greater aspect of my illness, governed by the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. How do I get relieved of the obsession of the mind? It's real simple. Work the steps. That's what they're for. Step one, what's the problem? Lack of power is my dilemma. I may be capable in every other area of my life, but I wasn't, but I could be. Truth of the matter is, there were no other areas in my life. When it comes to the question of drinking, I'm nuts. Lack of power is my dilemma. That's my problem. I'm powerless over this. If that's my problem, what's my solution? Step two, that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, soundness of mind, relieve me of the obsession to drink and use. Allow me, for the first time since I'm a baby, walk the earth a free man, no longer enslaved by alcohol and drugs. So I know what my problem and my solution are, and step three tells me that I must make a decision to do something about this. Because I'll tell you right now, man, what I know in here will not help me at all. What I do will. So step three lets me know I got to pull that trigger. Step three says, get down on your knees and turn your will and your life over to the care of a God you may or may not believe in. Well, I pray to a God I don't understand. I don't profess to understand God. I see evidence of God on a daily basis. On a daily basis. I got on an airplane to fly here. That's evidence of a power greater than me, I'll tell you that right now. Because you know what? I don't like that. I don't like getting on planes. I'm the worst person in the world to sit next to. We're sitting flying along, the plane goes bump, I'll turn to the guy, I get chatty when I get scared. I'll turn to the guy next to me and go, you know, gravity works 100% of the time. This thing right here, it doesn't. 5 minutes later, the guy next to me is hitting the call attendant button, just like, oh God, oh God, oh God. Give it to God, take it back. Give it to God, take it back. Give it to God, take it back. That's me going across the country. Earl's playing ping pong with God. Oh. Step three, I get down on my knees and I turn my will and my life over to God. Thy will, not mine. Thy will, not mine. That's what I say when I pray before I speak every time. Thy will, not mine. Let's not get me in charge of this thing because I'll screw it all up. I got to get out of the way. I got to get out of the way. So step one, I know the problem. Step two, I know the solution. Step three, I make a decision to do something about that. 4 and 5 is me. 6 and 7 is God. 8 and 9 is you. There's nobody else to play with. 4 and 4, I do a fearless and searching moral inventory. I read this before God to another human being. 6 and 7, I hook it back up with God, asking God to remove the defects of character because I'll remove the wrong stuff. I should not be involved in that decision-making process. Because right out of the gate, it's like, God, this defect of character, really enjoying this one. For this, I will give you 3 top-shelf defects of character. That's right. And I will throw in the top 2 picks for '09. Just please let me keep this one. Can't involve me right there. We already know. Earl's out of this deal. Okay, you saw the tie. It's a lovely tie. I got to loosen this. Much better. All right. So 8 and 9, I'm very, very sorry. Here's your money back in the house. No big explanation of, hey, check me out. I'm sober. I'm on a vision quest. And it's lovely. All right, great. No, and to make amends means to change. Very sorry I stole your car. I estimate the value of the car $20,000 at the time of the theft. And here's a check, and I'll give you a check in this amount every month from now until that debt is paid at whatever interest you deem appropriate. And I will not go steal your car and sell it to pay you for the car I stole from you. Change. If you don't think this is about change, read the second appendices in the big book, Spiritual Experience, and see how many words you find in there that sound a lot like the word change. I think it's 17. I don't know. But what do I know? So 10, 11, and 12 keep me in the game. 10, me, 11, 12. 10, me, 11, God, 12, you. Nobody, again. And it closes out the triangle. Unity is the body, I bring it here. Recovery of the mind, I work the steps to be relieved of the obsession of the mind. Having been restored to sanity, soundness of mind, no longer enslaved by alcohol and or drugs, I can be of service. My house is in order. I can give away something that is not what we would like to refer to as Earl sees it. This is of no value to anyone. This is the program of Alcoholics Anonymous as outlined in the big book. So when a guy says to me, can you help me? I can say yes, and I can help you with this, with what is in here. And I can walk you through this, and I can look you in the eyes, one alcoholic to another, and say, the effect of this is profound. It's the peace you seek. It's the balance you seek. It is the purpose you seek. It is the clarity that you seek. It's here. It's so simple. And I'll guarantee you, if you're new, what is asked of me in Alcoholics Anonymous is so much easier than anything I was doing out there. It's, I remember I sat down, they said, listen, we want you to do 4 things, really. We want you to go to regular meetings regularly. We want you to get a sponsor who's going to take you through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And having had the awakening of doing that, we want you to be of service to other people. 4 things. I heard that and I thought, anything else? It's an insurmountable group of suggestions. The fact is, that's so much easier than going out there trying to drink or use one more time. It's unbelievable. And the truth is that it's precisely the opposite in its effectiveness. When I'm out there drinking and using, first time I got loaded, best buzz I ever got. That first buzz, that's a beauty, isn't it? That's the one that basically sets us up to say, oh, I'll have more of that at the expense of pretty much everything. Right? But the more I use, the buzz I get gets a little bit less and less and less, and the price I pay for it gets higher and higher and higher and higher. This is the opposite. In here, they say there's no big deals, but I think a 30-day chip's absolutely remarkable. I don't know how anybody gets one of those. You know what I mean? It's just like, how are you? Fine! Okay. I'll not ask another question. That was me. That was my newcomer mantra. How are you? Fine. What are you doing? Fine. I hate them asking me the questions. How you doing? What's going on? I don't know. I don't know any of that. I don't know. Don't ask me things. So let me sit here. So the steps, unity's the body. Bring it here, recoveries of the mind, work the steps. Having had the awakening, get out of yourself and be of service. Help the next guy coming through the door. Why? Because he's not going to listen to anybody else but you. That's a guy who can walk through the door right now and say, with his, that look of like, he's just looking at you like, can you see the flames on my head? Can you see my head's on fire? It's just insane, right? And you go, and you could say, hey, listen, we got Earl H here. He's got 27 years clean. Let's go talk to him. Right? Click. It goes 27 years. Either he didn't use like me or he's lying. There's a lost weekend in there somewhere. Can't wrap his head around 27 years, but he goes, we got a guy over here with 34 days. You go, really? Wow, that's amazing. You can help him, I can't. We tell him that they're 54 years sitting over here, 52 years, 53 years. This is like, I get like emotional even look at you guys. Where would we be if not for you? That's the respect that I feel. we stand on your shoulders. You've always been the light up ahead, the ones for us, the ones when it just says, I don't know if I can do this. And I look up and there's somebody sitting there with 37 years or 48 years or 54 years, and I think, oh my God, 55 years, 56 years, you guys, we have a place to come because you kept it alive. And that's... I had no heroes when I got here. I had no sense of family. I had no sense of community. I had no idea how to be in the world. And the people that I could listen to were alcoholics who had gone before me, who had found what I needed. They were comfortable, sober. They were living life on life's terms. They were taking life on life's terms, man, the good with the bad. And they were showing up. I'm walking, well, they had to cut my head off today, and I'm all right with it. And I was just like, really? And then, my wife left, and she took all the money in the dog. I can't tell you how upset I am about the dog. And I would laugh and just go, really? Really? And then you'd follow them around, and it would be true. It would be true. This willingness, this amazing, profound capacity to get up and say, okay, we're going to have a day now. Who knows what it will be? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in between these lines. I'm going to hit my knees in the morning and I'm going to say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I don't think God needs to hear that prayer. God's all things and everywhere. God knew I was going to say that prayer before I did. So what the hell am I saying the prayer for? I'm not saying it so God will hear the prayer. I'm saying it so that I'll hear the prayer, so that I'll put my consciousness within these lines and try to go out in the world and live this way. Live the life of a far better man than I actually am. You leave me alone. I'm not in here talking to you. I'm out there in your cars. Oh, man, you wouldn't believe the things that just went through my head. Somebody else's car with somebody else's money, with somebody else's woman, with somebody else's gun, pulling up next to somebody and saying, where's downtown? That's me. And not feeling the slightest bit bad about any of it. You left those things unattended. Not how I live today. I'm married. I'm married to a woman I actually know. Right? We live in a house. If you're new, I don't know if you'll look. She said we got to buy a house. I said, you're insane. Well, she's amazing. I've been dragged kicking and screaming into a lovely life by this woman. She's absolutely remarkable. She said, we should live together. I said, horrible idea. Horrible. I know where that goes. That goes to marriage and divorce and mayhem. I don't know. So, but if you want to, you want to destroy a good thing, okay. Moved in together, pretty good idea. She said we should get a dog. Dog? That involves responsibilities, if I'm not mistaken. Feed them, walk them. There's poop involved. Got a dog. Unbelievably great idea. Went and got another one. Got two, Lucky and Lulu, two crazy rescue German Shepherds. Great. Dogs are great for people. All I got to do to make Lulu happy is just go home. She walked through the door and she's like, "You're back. This is great." Man, I should live like that, And then she said, we should buy a house. Oh well, you completely lost it now. But okay, you want to ruin us for the rest of our lives financially, fine. So we bought a house at exactly the right time and moved into this great little house. And I'm standing out on the front lawn, and I'm looking at this house, and I'm thinking, all right, house. I don't know, this is uncomfortable for me because, they know right where to find you now. Where's Earl? Well, he lives right over there. Oh. that's really not a good idea. So we got this house, and it's got a front yard and a backyard, and the front yard's very nice. There's like grass and plants and stuff, and I'm thinking, oh, God. And it's a nice neighborhood, and lovely lawns out in the front, and I'm thinking, oh, I got to, take care of this somehow. I can't let the front lawn die. Everything else can die. I can't let the front lawn die, because if the front lawn dies, that's how they spot you. Nice lawn, nice lawn, nice lawn, dead lawn. There they are. There's the attics. There's it right there. So there's a hose and a thing with pipes, you know what I mean? And I turn the thing on, and I'm like throwing the water around. Fine, now I got to water the lawn. Good idea, get in the house. A lawn came with it, and I got to watering. And all of a sudden, I realized the light's kind of hitting the water on the plants, and it's like this little prismatic effect, which we can enjoy. and I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, if I'm not mistaken, plants are alive. To me, the most profound evidence of a power greater than myself. Because everywhere I go, I look at the plant life, and I'm just amazed. I've become an orchid freak. Everywhere in my house, no matter where you are in my house, you can stop and look around, you can see an orchid. There's no place in my house where you stop and go, I can't see an orchid. No place. They're just everywhere. I love them. The most evolved form of plant life on the planet. You find your buzz, I'll find mine. So I'm out there and I think, well, the plants, these things are alive. And if I'm not mistaken, plants breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen. I'm standing right here breathing in the oxygen and out the carbon dioxide. We got a little thing going here. So now it's turned into I'm catching a little buzz here. This is getting interesting. So there's a little more for you, my brother. There's a little more for you, my sister. And what's happening is a guy drives by, he sees man on lawn watering plants. Now what's happening? What's happening is there's an alcoholic and a drug addict who's been set free by Alcoholics Anonymous, who's living life on life's terms, who's catching a buzz out front of his house with a few of his friends. That's what's happening. Now, we all got to water the lawn. You may have to water the lawn. I get to. You may have to sit in traffic. I get to. My wife calls me and says, honey, we need to talk. Oh, what do I have to change now? Because that conversation never ends with her saying, and here's how I'm going to change. It ends with how I'm going to change. And oddly enough, she seems to be correct every single time. It's infuriating. But the beauty of that is this. I get to marvel in the ordinary today. I used to be so dead as a human being that I'd have to hear a bullet go by to feel like I had an interesting evening. Because I was so dead, it would take a peak, extreme, dramatic experience for me to feel anything. Now, I get to feel every moment of my life. I get to be in the moment. Remember I was talking about if there's not enough heroin, I'll go with the cocaine because it's up or down. It doesn't really matter which way. And that's because the real point is it's about I got to get out of right here, right now. Because right here, right now, I'm restless and I'm afraid. I'm self-centered. I'm discontented. I can't get comfortable being me no matter where I am. I need to go up or down. I need to get out of here. And if you're not here, between those, if you can't get there, you can't get into life, because that's the only place life is. It's only now. There's no life in 10 minutes. There's no life 20 minutes ago. The life is now. And if I can't have now, I've been robbed of life. And that's what alcohol and drugs did to me from the moment I began until the moment it ended. By the grace of God. What Alcoholics Anonymous gives me back is now. And now is the only place I can love you. Now is the only place I can experience the grace of having purpose and value in my life. Being ready, willing, and able to say that, yes, I'm an active, strong member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm available to be a service to others. I sponsor 25 guys, and they sponsor a legion of guys, and we do big book studies, and we're doing the deal just like you guys are doing the deal. We're all over the place. And what I get out of that is I get to have this moment with you. I get to come in here and not be so self-centered that I can't feel that this is one of those special places. An environment has been created here within which an alcoholic can experience the pop, where an alcoholic or an addict can come and catch the buzz, where you can sit here, know you're safe long enough to go ahead and feel the feelings, because all they want is to be felt. And you can be given the tools that are necessary for us to sustain a life of purpose and value. You get the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, you work the program, the 3 sides of the triangle, that's what's offered here, and that's the foundation upon which we walk free men and women. That's it, and that's how you catch the buzz for life, and it's much more powerful than any substance out there. You can't hit that crack pipe hard enough to catch this buzz. You can't. It ain't out there. So what So look, I'm out of time. I just want you to know that I love you. I do. You know what? And I can feel that today, that you do, that you love me. And I love you right back. And that's what we get to do in here, is we're alcoholics and addicts, and there's nothing else matters. I don't care what else I need. I don't need to know any more about that, you, than that. If I know that about you, I know that we got something that no one or nothing can come between. One alcoholic down in the dirt sharing his experience, strength, and hope with another alcoholic. We will rise up out of it all doing just that. I wish you peace. Thanks.